Mm-hmm.
So good morning, good afternoon, depending where you are from. And especially we have Eva from Greece, from Eclectic Greece. So Eva, it's all more afternoon, late afternoon for you. We are grateful for this webinar, and we're going to learn so much more today about all this destination, all year long destination. So Eva, my dear, the screen is yours.
Thank you. The floor is mine. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Good afternoon. I mean, it's already evening, here in Greece, it's 7 o'clock. We have wonderful weather. The fires are all been out. If you heard, anything on the news, and we're still carry on, with our normal summer season, which is looking to extend definitely until beginning of November. So I'm really excited. As I was saying to Dominique before we started the recording, we still get a lot of requests, even last minute for August. September has still some pockets, so please feel free to reach out to us. October is very comfortable and, lots of flexibility and availability. And of course, today we are presenting to you all these destinations that you would never think that they can serve as a destination for November and December and even in January in Greece, because everybody thinks about the beach and the sun, but Greece has the gastronomy, has the history, so many highlights. So I'm just going to start sharing my screen now, and as every time it will take me about 20 seconds to jump on the next slide, so bear with me. That's gonna be I mean, it's typical, I don't know, it's maybe a heavy video, Dominique. So
while you're preparing it, I just see that Susan is asking, can you please let us know a bit about Porto Heli?
Porto Heli, yes, of course. A little bit in the presentation, I'm going to Peloponnese. So I'm going to speak about Porto Heli, the area of Porto Heli. Absolutely, Susan. So, I mean, so many of you has, met me in the past. We have spoken, we've met in events and, conferences, just to give you an overview of how we operate. I look after the whole Eclectic team, and I'm a lot on the road, joining Dominique on, sales missions and, a lot of other sales calls activities. So you reach out to either myself or Dominique or the Eclectic Greece email address that hits the mailbox of my two seniors in the operational side, the travel design team. So we acknowledge your request, and then we come back to you in a couple of days, depending on the time of the year, of course, with a proposal. So we have a full cost breakdown to demonstrate transparency. We have been the only DMC that started cost breakdown the past 10 years that we've been operating. We secure eclectic amenities. So if some of you, for example, belong to networks such as Virtuoso, we extend the Virtuoso amenities or something of similar value. Or for other destinations that, of course, we don't have all Virtuoso properties here in Greece, we will make sure that you have eclectic amenities. So you see a lot of value in booking with us and your clients booking through you. We are on the ground 24/7, so you also have a US number, which is free of charge to you. It's ringing here in Greece to call us. We take care of all the concierge services, and of course we extend a 12% commission, which is getting paid through Onyx about a month and a half after the last checkout of the client. These days, I mean, this year specifically, we have been so much quicker with processing every 2 weeks, the commission payment. So I'm really proud for another achievement of Eclectic. So if anyone needs more information about how we operate and how we can work together, feel free to reach out to myself, and I will organize a super tailored, personalized call. So I have chosen some destinations that you would probably not think that can serve as an all year round destination. So if you have people who would want to explore a little bit things that never crossed your mind. For example, an island can be an all year round destination, or Athens can be an all year round destination. Peloponnese definitely, and thanks Susan for bringing up Porto Heli, can be an all year round destination. Basically, you see here the map of Greece. Sorry, bear with me. I need to, I'm not sure if you can see my cursor, Dominique. You can?
Yes, I do.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I mean, if I click, it goes into the next slide. So from the northern part of Greece, Thessaloniki and Halkidiki, moving down to Meteora, all these parts are supposed to be, you know, for the Greeks, more kind of like, you know, winter destinations. So this is what I'll be talking to you today. And on top of that, I have a little surprise, which is Crete. Crete sits on the southern part of Greece, and it's one of the, well, actually, it's the largest island of Greece. A very distinct culture and, like, you know, history there, and it, you know, known for the delicious cuisine. You know, the gastronomy is, like, you know, number one. The history is there with Knossos Palace. So Crete can serve, and it's actually one of the top destinations that the Greeks, like, you know, from everywhere, whenever they're missing, like, you know, the sun and the heat, they would be moving down to Crete. So just an idea of, like, you know, what Crete looks like. Of course, you know, Crete has, like, you know, the east part and the western part, and the east part would be more like, you know, Irakli or Lundagis Nikolos, which is a summer destination, proper summer destination. So you would have resorts there, but then you would have Rethymno and towards, like, you know, Hania, that it can serve, like, you know, all year round. As I said, like, you know, hotels would be available and open throughout the year. So you would have amazing activities starting from, like, you know, relating, like, you know, with the nature, relating, like, you know, with history, relating with gastronomy. So I'm just jumping onto my next slide. So you see, this is one of the ports in Crete. It's the Rethymno port. So we're moving into Hania. So Hania, it used to be, like, you know, the crossroad, as we call it, of civilizations. It was under the Venetian Empire. It, you know, it was, you know, under the Turkish Empire. The Arabs even, like, you know, invaded it at some point. So it has a lot of, like, you know, characteristics and, you know, features and, you know, traditions that were left, like, you know, behind after, like, you know, these civilizations. Of course, you would have little, like, you know, hotels such as, you know, Domus Regnier. I don't think I ever presented that to you because it's a little bit more special. It's a, you know, the architecture is quite, like, you know, amazing. I mean, in the little town of Hania, you have cobblestone streets, bougainvillea flowers, like, you know, little shops. It feels like, you know, you come out of a fairy tale. And of course, when you are, you know, wandering around, like, you know, the streets, you would always come to the main port, which was, you know, the first picture that I've showed you. And then you will have options like, you know, Casa Delfino, a very aristocratic and emblematic, like, you know, hotel with the deep history. I mean, the family that runs it now, it's like, you know, 5th generation. So you have, like, you know, beautiful courtyard and a rooftop bar and, you know, restaurant area where you're overlooking, like, you know, the port. And let me tell you that the temperature in Crete, because it's very down south, it doesn't fall below probably, like, you know, 15 Celsius. Dominique, do you want to translate that? Probably it's about 15 Celsius.
So I'm still counting in Celsius. Can you believe?
Perfect. A friend of the Greek trying to do Fahrenheit. I think it's about like, you know, 60 to 70. So it's not, like, you know, that cold, you know, for but it's, you know, it's always, like, you know, very sunny. Probably, like, you know, Crete would have, like, you know, the most sun of all locations, like, you know, in Greece, and, you know, Rhodes as well. And then you, in terms of other activities, if you have, like, you know, some fit travelers, you can do the Samaria Gorge when it's not, like, you know, during the summer, which is, like, you know, piping hot and might be, like, you know, faint. It's about, like, you know, 11 miles long. It's 16 kilometers long, 11 miles long, and it will take you to the end of, like, you know, the gorge. It will take you to the sea, and with a little boat you will come back to the mainland. And this is, like, you know, the gorgeous view that you're facing. Did you find out, Dominique?
60 Fahrenheit.
Yeah. So 60 to 65, like, you know, probably it would be, like, you know, the lowest that it would get. So for some people, for example, who live, like, you know, in mountain, like, you know, places, or, like, you know, colder places with a lot of snow, this is, like, you know, proper summer. Of course, like, you know, Crete is known, like, you know, for the most amazing olive oil. I mean, there is a lot of fight, and Dominique knows it really well, because the last roadshow that we've been together, there was an Italian guy. There was 2 Italian guys, one representing Croatia, one representing Italy. It was a Greek girl, myself, and a Spanish, like, you know, guy, and we're all fighting who's, like, you know, the best olive oil. So I just want you to leave me like, a text, like, a message on the Q&A. Who do you think, like, the best olive oil comes from? Anyway, so we have like, the people from Crete, and we have the people from Kalamata, which is Peloponnese. We're going to go like, there later. But honestly, I think the Cretans have, really done a lot of like, research apart from like, what naturally like, they were, the gift of like, nature, which is like, the olive trees and the olive groves. They're really taking it with a lot of research and development to the next level. And, majority of the olive oil that it's produced, like, in Greece, it's been exported. So you will have the opportunity to have, olive oil tastings and, go around like, some quaint, like, wineries. And then if you are a little bit like, bored in Hania, I mean, you can stay there like, for 2 or 3 days. But if you don't have like, the beach life element, you can go to Rethymno, where you have another like, kind of like, surprise, because the best food tour experience or culinary work experience, one would be in Rethymno and the other one would be in Athens. And I'm presenting you both tonight. So you will go around about 7 or 8 stops. Rethymno, actually, a little bit about like, the background, began a period of growth when the Venetians, the Venetian conquerors, like, decided to put an intermediate commercial stop between Chania and Iraklio. So Iraklio is the capital of Crete. Chania is like, the second most popular, and then Rethymno is somewhere in the middle. It's one of the best preserved old towns in Crete. So again, you're walking around and you see, all these amazing, like, mansions, like in a variety of colorful, like, buildings, a lot of how can I say, like, traditional shops, like, and even like, the shops are keeping all the style and the character, like, from the past. So 7 stops, and one of those stops would be with this guy here. I think I mentioned that to you, Dominique, before. Over the pandemic, we kind of like, lost touch, with him, because, our business kind of stopped. And then I saw him like, one day on the news, and he's 88 years old now, and he's still, the most known phyllo master. So he starts like, he creates like, phyllo pastry, like, from scratch. So it's a family business. So his son is continuing like, this business now, but he's still around, and we're really, happy and grateful to have him like, as one of our key partners in Rethymno. So remember, Crete, not just, for summer holiday or spring or autumn. It can be operating around like another year, even December, even January and February. That would be like, just perfect to explore the gastronomy and just experience like, the warmth of the island, even during the winter months. Now we're moving to our beautiful capital. Athens has been the capital of Greece since 1834. For those who have visited even before the Olympics, about like 20 years ago, 19 years ago to be precise, has been totally transformed. There is a tube like, connectivity now. There is a lot of, automation. There is a lot of upgrades that they have done, like, to the city of like, Athens, and actually is one of the most popular European destinations for a city break, and also one of the most affordable, destinations for a city break. So there's a lot of, Europeans, I mean, from the very western part of like, Europe, for example, like, London, it's about 3.5 hour flight down to Athens. So you can really do like, a 3-day trip. So, a 3-day trip, yes. The city is full of history. Of course, you have like, the Acropolis, the Parthenon, as you see on the screen. I was very touched because a couple of weeks ago, I was at the airport. I was, it was a client trip, a travel advisor trip. So she's been with her whole family. And her 85-year-old, like, mom, I asked her I was at the airport saying goodbye to them. And I've asked her what was her favorite part. And she said, oh, for me, she was almost like, crying. For me, it was just absolutely amazing to be able to be staying like, in Athens, and from my room having like, this beautiful view of the Acropolis and see that, because she studied like, history when she was like, at school, and she was like, really touched. So, for us, maybe the Greeks are a little bit like, snob. We don't even like, appreciate what we have, but it's been, one of the one of the most important kind of like, sites, like, in the antiquity. So I have included like, a couple of options apart from our beautiful Milos Hotel that, Dominique represent, which is absolutely stunning. And we've done really well selling it, Dominique, this year. So it's a boutique option. The only thing probably like, it would like, I mean, it's overlooking the old parliament, and it's in one of the most amazing, like, neighborhoods in the city center of Athens. But if you're really looking for like, some gorgeous view over the Acropolis, the Athens capital would be a good option. And the new Dolly, which is really like, stretch of an arm and you're touching the Acropolis. But of course, like, in terms of pricing, because I know people are how can I say, like, conscious about like, budget in Athens, they can splurge like, in the islands. I would say like, Milos as a 5-star luxury accommodation, it's fairly like, priced compared to the other two options that they would offer, like, this Acropolis view. Now, in terms of activities, loads to do in Athens. I mean, people kind of like, feel that they want to use it as a stop, like, just to land in, spend a day. Quite frankly, you can spend like, a week and still is not enough, like, to explore the whole of Athens. So in terms of like, historic activities, the Athens city tour, including like, the rock of the Acropolis and the museum, we have done that together, Dominique, and it was like, pretty amazing. A culinary walk, this is an even bigger compared to Rethymno. No, it's about like, 9 stops. I mean, you have to do it like, kind of like, starting in the, after breakfast, a couple of hours after breakfast, and finishing off like, kind of like, early evening, because again, there's a lot of food. So you will try like, delicacies, you will try like, sweets, desserts, souvlaki, like, the traditional souvlaki. You will try what Greeks like, have even like, for breakfast, the traditional koulouri, which is like a breadstick with sesame. You will try bougatsa, which is like, kind of a traditional breakfast like, item with a filo pastry filled with custard cream or meat or cheese. So there's a lot of like, food involved, so you will really enjoy that. Again, like, when we have like, groups or like, maybe some incentives, or although we specialize in FIT services, there would be like, some multi-generational like, trips, or a couple of like, families, so they would ask us for something kind of, interactive, so we can even hire like, the Panathinaikos Stadio, which is in the city center of Athens. This is the proper, Olympic, Panathinaikos Stadio. The Olympic Stadium is a little bit like, further in Athens, but the actual Olympic Stadium, it's in Peloponnese, so don't get confused. So this is where the Olympic, the flame, starts from every time, like, we're starting the Olympic Games. And it's traveling around the world. And then you would have a half-day Sunio tour, which is about an hour, and I would say an hour, depending on the traffic, an hour and 15 minutes. And you're driving, by the Athenian Riviera. Now you have more development by the Athenian Riviera. What I mean by that is the city passing, kind of like, driving past the Piraeus port. You're not going into there, and you go to the southern part, the suburbs of the southern part of like, Athens, which is by the water. So you will have Glyfada, Vouliagmeni. This is where we're located. Dominique, you've been into our offices. Glyfada, Vouliagmeni, Voula, Vari. And it goes all the way to Sunio. So all this drive, it would be by the water. You have like, 2 properties around, just, as an educational, 4 Seasons is located like, around this area, and the new one and only is coming as well in October for those more ultra luxury clients. So at the Temple of Poseidon, so the ancient Greeks, especially the seamen, believed that the storms were signs of Poseidon. So they were trying to appease, like, his anger by offering, like, sacrifices, to the temple. And this is, like, why this temple, like, was built. I mean, if you don't make it, like, for whatever reason in Santorini, the most amazing sunset spot in Greece, it would be the temple of Sunio. So apart from the historical element and the area around, which is like, all green, and you can even go to the little taverna by the water and you can stay by the beach for a couple of hours. You have like, an amazing like, view of the sunset. On top of that, I mean, if you're looking for something completely private, we can privatize the new museum of the Acropolis for a dinner. Apart from weekends, that's like, possible. And then if you're trying to move like, a little bit up north, Delphi, of course, is the most important oracle of the antiquity. And it's a UNESCO heritage site. It's about 2 hours, like, drive from Athens. So it's, it can be done like, as a day trip, starting very early in the morning around like, 8 o'clock. You get there for 10:30. So you do the whole tour with our guide and a private van, and then they will take you to the nearby area for souvenir shopping. I mean, the mountains, around like, the area of Delphi, it's, quite stunning, and the greenery and the last big greenery is absolutely amazing. So definitely like, worth taking that trip. But there is people who are really into, history, that they do Delphi and they carry on further up to Meteora. Meteora is a rock formation in the center of Greece. It's actually my hometown. It's like 20 minutes from the place that I was born. So it belongs to the prefecture of like my hometown. So I'm very proud of like this highlight. Also UNESCO heritage site. It's one of the largest and most steeply built complexes of Eastern Orthodox monasteries. Second in terms of importance, only to Mount Athos. Mount Athos is about 2 hours drive from Thessaloniki, and there is no access allowed like to the women. So it's only like for men like to go and pray and meditate and find themselves. We're a little bit more open-minded like in the center like part of Greece, so we allow like access to everyone. From the initial like 24 monasteries, I want to show you like another picture, because this is really like stunning. It's like they're kind of like the monastery is hanging off the cliffs. So from the initial 24, only 8 are still around. So most of them like were kind of like destroyed, and you have access to 6 of those. And the plains and the prairies and the mountains are absolutely spectacular. You can spend like a couple of days around there, because there's like forest, and there's activities like horseback riding and rafting and river like sports in the area. But again, we're talking about like maybe the second time like travelers, or the most sophisticated travelers, the more adventurous like travelers, the ones that they want to see something other than Mykonos and Santorini. So back in the days, just to give you a little bit of like insight, back in the days, those monasteries were offered like for isolation to all the religious prayers, and also like from safety from like the thieves. So they were connected like with how you call it, like baskets. So the connectivity like across like the rocks were like done like with baskets, until even like the recent dates. And if I go like even further up, we're reaching to Thessaloniki, which is the second largest like city of Greece. But this is a lot like to cover. This is like the place where Alexander the Great was born. His father Philip, King Philip, was buried. Like his tomb is like over there. So we cover like that on a special like edition about like northern Greece, because there's so much like to cover. Now I'm taking like a step down, so we're going back from the center of Greece, going back to Athens, and then further down to Peloponnese. So this massive piece of land, it's called the Peloponnese. So it's about an hour away drive from Athens to get to the first kind of main town, which is called Corinthos, and then another hour and a half to get to one of the most important like sightseeing places, which would be Olympia. So Olympia would be the birthplace of the Olympic Games. So you can take a tour to learn about like, you know, the Olympic spirit. You can even run through the original, like, you know, Olympic Stadium. There is like, you know, two sides. There's, sorry, two major sites and, you know, two museums. The one is devoted to the ancient Olympic Games, and the other one before Christ, and the other one to the modern Olympic Games. So this is like, you know, highlight. I would recommend maybe not to stay in the area of Olympia. I mean, there's not enough, like, you know, 5-star. There would be like, you know, 3 to 4-star entry level. That's why I don't recommend, like, you know, to stay in the area. So you probably, like, you know, take the tour and come back to another little town such as, like, you know, Nafplio. So I think now it's like, you know, the time to speak about Porto Heli. So we're coming to Argolida. So the area of Argolida would include, or the Argolida tour would include, like, you know, this beautiful ancient theater of Epidaurus, which is one of the most important ancient theaters in the antiquity. It can accommodate about 14,500 spectators with the best acoustics in the modern world. It's a shame that it cannot be translated. Maybe, like, you know, we can look for, like, in a service like that, but still there's a lot of, like, you know, concerts and theatrical plays that are happening in the ancient theater of Epidaurus. In any case, it would be worthwhile, like, you know, visiting. And then in the area, you would have one of the most important wine regions, and I keep saying that on my webinars, and you know, it's a classic of me, but I mean, we're good people, but we're not the best, like, you know, maybe in marketing, such as the French, like, you know, Dominique. You can see Dominique, like, you know, she's good at marketing. So the French and the Italians, like, you know, have really, like, you know, boosted, like, you know, what they're producing with good marketing. I think there is exceptional varieties of, like, you know, wine in Greece, but we never really focused on, you know, on this extroversion, let's put it that way. But you have 3 major regions. One is in the northern part of Greece, which is very close to Thessaloniki. The second one would be Santorini, which is, you know, the oldest vineyard in Europe. And then would be Nemea. But Nemea would be extremely important because they produce the best red wine. So definitely a must do when you're in the area. And then Mykonos was the kingdom of King Agamemnon. I mean, we can talk about history, like, you know, for ages here. And then you go to Nafplio. So Nafplio would be a little town. I wouldn't dare to say city because it's a town built by the water. You will have the Ottoman mosque, and you would have, like, you know, huge fortress, like, you know, Palamidi fortress, which you can take, like, you know, drive with a car about, like, you know, 3 to 5 minutes from the main town, or you can choose to walk about 1,000 steps. So if you're doing that, like, you know, in December, 1,000 steps, it's fine. You're not even going to sweat, but don't do it in the summertime. So you would have extraordinary tavernas, you know, coffee shops by the water. I mean, it's a typical weekend destination for the Athenians because it's about 2-hour drive to get there. And you would have a lot of boutique options, boutique hotel options, you know, 4-star or entry level, like, you know, 5-star, like the 360 hotel and suites that we have stayed, like, you know, recently. Castellano, which is, like, you know, an entry level 5-star. So you see through the window, you'll be able to see, you know, at the back of the fortress and also the main square of Nafplio. Really cute, really picturesque, like, you know, a must go if you're in the area. So very close to Nafplio, you would find Porto Heli. Porto Heli is an area which is also built around, like, you know, the water. I wouldn't even call it a town. I would say a village with a lot of restaurants and bars. Porto Heli is about a 10 to 15 minutes drive, if that, from the popular property of Amanzoe. Other than that, I wouldn't recommend our clients, you know, the ones that we're servicing, the 4-star and the, you know, the 5-star clients, to stay in Porto Heli unless they found, like, you know, something really spectacular in terms of, like, you know, of a villa product. I would rather send them, like, you know, to Nafplio, or if they have the budget, stay around, like, you know, the Amman property. So Porto Heli is, you know, a good place to go for dinner. There is a lot of yachts, like, you know, in the evening there is about 1,000, like, you know, yachts, smaller, bigger ones, catamaran, like, you know, ultra luxury, like, you know, yachts, very green. You can even, like, you know, rent a boat. I mean, this is not really, you know, high-end luxury. But if you want to do it, you can rent like a little boat on your own and go to the little islands around the area, like some rocky islands. You don't even need like a license for that. I did that once, like with my brother. Not eclectic service, but never mind. So yeah, this is the area of Porto Heli. So I don't know if what was the name now? Susan, was it Susan?
Yes, it was.
It was okay. If Susan has like more questions, she can definitely like ask a little bit more. And then this is something that I've never presented like to any of the webinars. So from Nafplio.
While you were speaking about this, Susan wanted to know if it was vibrant for younger people.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I wouldn't just, I mean, there is a couple of hotels that I have personally like stayed, and I wouldn't recommend them for our clients. Again, I'm not suggesting that it's a no-go if you're prepared like for a maybe 4-star entry level, like 5-star that maybe you have like some screaming kids around and a lot of like fun around. I'm sorry, no disrespect to the kids. It's just like not a product, because there is a few hotels like in the area. I wouldn't recommend it like for the accommodation. But Porto Heli is beautiful in terms of like the restaurants and the bars. There is a really nice vibe in the evening. But again, if you ask me, shall I go to Porto Heli or shall I go to Paros, for the younger like generations, or shall I go to Mykonos, or shall I go to Hania, because there's the nightlife is like more vibrant? Definitely like would recommend to go to the island. But for a day or for a night or two, it would be okay. Did I cover that? What do you think?
Yes, she said great.
Okay, so now you're driving. Okay, there's going to be a lot of like driving in Peloponnese. So you either do self-driving, or we can have like a driver for the duration of your stay exploring like Peloponnese. Both options are possible. But when you live in LA and you have like 5 lanes, driving back and forth, maybe you find it a little bit more challenging. But if you travel before in Italy or France or another European like cities, you'll find it just okay to drive like in Greece. So from Nafplio you go to Menalo, which is about an hour and 20 minutes like drive. There is a variety of like little villages that like the one that you see with amazing like architecture. Dimitrana would be one of the most popular, Vitina, and also Karitena. Those 3, there would be kind of a ghetto in a very good way, because they attract all the affluent like Greeks who live like in Athens over the winter. So there's a lot of ski resorts. There would be a kind of like how you call it, ski facilities in a couple of like those mountains. There would be winter activities. There is a huge focus in terms of like gastronomy. So the overall setting, it's very inviting for a weekend stay. So they're super popular and really untouched, I would say. So there's a lot of authenticity there. So recently, about 2 months ago, we had a brand new resort, Mana Resort, which is developed like in Menalo. It used to be a sanatorium like back in the day. So they totally like revamped the building. I want to show you where exactly it's located. Look at that. It feels like you're in Switzerland or in Austria or somewhere like spectacularly amazing. So there is a lot of that. Dominique, I know you're even surprised because we never talk about that, but there is a lot of that in Greece. But the focus has been all the previous years into exploring Greece as a summer like destination. So we will be focusing a lot more to how we make Greece an all year round destination. So I am going to stay there in a couple of weeks, so I'll give you all my feedback, and then you again drive another hour and a half and you get to Mistras. We've spoken about Mistras in the past. It's about 5 kilometers away from Sparta. Mistras is a castle town dating back on the 13th century. It's called the wonder as in the miracle of the Morea. which was built as an amphitheater around the fortress that was erected in 1949 by the Prince of Achaia. It was a foreign, prince, William of Villehardouin. I'm not even sure if I pronounced it well, but it's not a Greek name. Mistras actually was conquered by the Byzantines and then occupied by the Turks and then later on by the Venetians. And eventually the city was abandoned in 1832, where already the revolution of the Greeks against the Turkish, started in 1821. So behind it's only left breathtaking medieval ruins. So you have a lot of monasteries there. It's definitely worth exploring for a day or two. And I think I've shared that feedback after Virtuoso last Virtuoso Travel Week last year, that I had no more energy or saliva, I was drained. I took this 2-day kind of break in this amazing resort. It's called Euphoria Retreat, one of the best spa and wellness resorts in Greece. Huge spa and wellness facilities. The food was out of this world, and you're really into the forest. And it was August, and it happened that it rained, but it was still very romantic. I was on my own, but it was still very romantic and very picturesque. So I would definitely recommend it as part of your adventure, let's say in Peloponnese. And then further down, on the one side, as you look at the map, Mistras is somewhere in the middle. On the one side, on the left, let's say that you look at the map, on the left-hand side, you would have Kalamata, which is again, very popular, for the olive oil. But Kalamata is a big city. It's actually one of the largest cities, in Greece and in Peloponnese. So you can visit all year round. It's built, by the water. So you will have a lot, to do even, winter time. Explore the little villages, similar to the ones that I showed you earlier up in Menalo Mountain. You would have the Messenian Mani, so a lot of villages with amazing architecture. So you would have the Messenian Mani villages, and then on the other side, opposite, on the kind of eastern side of Peloponnese, you will find Monevasia. So Monevasia, it's the nickname. Well, I don't know why they've given it the nickname, the Gibraltar of the East, but it was given as because of the rock that's protecting the invasions of the Arabs back on the 6th century. So it's totally secluded, overlooking the whole of the Aegean. Nothing, the Aegean Sea, nothing is obstructing these views. And one of my favorite places in Monevasia, there is quite a few places that would operate all year round. It's a really difficult to pronounce, but a lot more people become familiar with Monevasia, especially when you get to the end of the mainland and then you have to cross over. You have two very popular islands, especially for the Greeks. One is called Elafonisos, and the other it's called Kythera. So in these two places, you will find the most amazing turquoise Caribbean looking, water in Greece. I mean, pretty much everywhere in Greece, but this really stand out. So there are two little islands that you get the little ferry and you cross over. Now, when you're in Monevasia, you will need super comfortable shoes because it's all cobbled streets. But the beauty is just amazing. I mean, you see even on the screen you have these little flowers of bougainvillea, which I'm absolutely crazy about. You will have this amazing architecture. You have a lot of souvenir shops, a lot of hidden corners, coffee shops, and restaurants. So it is a place definitely to explore if you decide to take a trip into Peloponnese. So I would say, give or take, you would need a good 10 days to do a good round of, Peloponnese and, really feel the hospitality and see a little bit of the mountains, a little bit of the sea, a little bit of the olive oil, the olive groves, eat the olive oil, a little bit of Nafplio, and maybe the ancient Olympia. I think, Dominique, I am gonna wrap up. I mean, in Greece, we offer a variety of other services. Of course, we service about 20 destinations, mainly in the islands. But it was really refreshing to talk about the all year round destinations. So you would have jet chartering with us. You would have helicopter connecting kind of more challenging destinations like Athens to Amman, which is in Porto Heli area. It would be a good 25 minute helicopter kind of itinerary. So you don't have to spend 3 hours in zigzagging going up and down the road. Again, we would have villa product in about 19 different locations, and we can get you access, privileged access in some amazing and exclusive events that are happening in Greece. And that would be the end of it. Just a reminder of our Booklectic, which is kind of like an eye-opener. It's opening up a new world where destination guides and pictures, photo library, and recordings of me and Dominique talking endlessly about Greece. It's all loaded there. And of course, we have a YouTube channel. Dominique, do you upload our webinars as well?
Yes, I do. As soon as I finish this one, I send the recording to Jean-Christophe, and it goes on to our Dominique Debec Collection YouTube channel.
I am very popular.
Webinars.
I am very popular and don't even know that. Okay, so that would be the end of it. Sorry, I didn't want to keep you as much, but I don't think we lost any participants, so that's positive.
Thank you very much, Eva. If you want to switch off your screen, so then we can.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Sorry. Yes. Stop sharing. Yes.
Let's see. Yuki said bravo to the very brave Greek firefighter. Well done.
Oh, bless you. Thank you.
Yuki also thought that Crete was your favorite island. Everyone fall in love with Crete. Yuki, I said Meteora, Greek magic.
Greek magic.
Said you drove all through the area of Delphi Meteora 40 years ago. I will never forget the experience.
Paul, you should come back.
Céline, you want to know what is a change now the government brought for the Acropole number of visitors? Did they start the policy because they were tourists at the time?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much of a change for us, to be honest with you. When we have a private guide booked, it's predominantly for those who are not escorted.
So with Eclectic Greece, no problem.
You're safe.
Yes. You mentioned all these beautiful islands. Do you think some of can be categorized for family, couples, quieter island, or for divers?
Islands as in Crete. What is Celine referring to? We spoke today. We spoke only about Crete as an island.
Yeah. I think that was 1235, so we were talking about Crete at that time.
Okay, so in Crete, it's a destination for everyone, for couples, for multi-generation, families, for honeymooners, for families with younger kids, with older kids. Crete can cover every single taste, so you will find accommodation for everyone there. But of course, places such as Santorini that are not allowing kids by the caldera. Kids under 13 or some places under 16, it's a little bit restricted. But that doesn't mean that, you cannot have kids in general, in Santorini. They're a lot more open-minded. I would say a majority of the destination will cater for, for families and for both families and, not children, families as well.
Ola, thank you for saying just fascinating the itinerary tips. And Suzanne, you're asking when you want to rent a villa for a month in Greece and visit some. Where would you recommend?
Yes, I mean, if you rent a villa for a month, probably, I mean, the distances, Greece might be a small country, but it's not as small. So I would recommend maybe to have a villa for a week or 2 weeks, in one destination, and maybe another 2 weeks in a different destination. So from there you can take smaller trips. But we need to talk about the logistics and what the clients would want to see. If they're really into history and the nature and they don't care about the beach life, yes, that's fine, we can do Peloponnese. But if they want to be by the beach all day long, we need to do one of the islands. So yeah, I would say it would be a combination of things. Maybe some parts a hotel, some parts would be a villa.
And Suzanne, you can book on letsconnect365.com an appointment with Eva, and you can actually even bring on your clients with it. It's a 15-minute
to convert even better. Yeah.
With any of our properties or our design. Duki, do you think the visa to enter European country will be enforced in 2024?
When do you think? I'm not sure I follow that. I've heard that it will be happening from next year, but it wouldn't be something that it's gonna break the bank. Similar to me coming to the States, it's something like $11-12. So it's not a huge cost for travelers like our clients. But yeah, they announced that it would be happening from the beginning of next year.
All right, well, thank you. That was the last question. If anyone else has anything, and let us know. As I'm going to put in the box the little Let's Connect so you don't forget the link.
Thank you, Dominique.
Connect365.com. Everybody loves it. And I think, Eva, you said that when the clients come in on board, usually you seal the deal right there.
I am totally comfortable if the advisors bring the clients, because listening from a local expert, somebody who actually was born here, grew up here, lived abroad, understands their culture, because I'm always on the road. I'm in the States 6 to 8 times a year. So there is a lot of connection with somebody who lives here, but at the same time they understand their expectations. So I think the conversion is a lot quicker, and especially if it's a travel advisor, and we don't expect travel advisors to know all about Greece, and that's why we're here for, right? We're the local experts. When an advisor is not familiar, and if they're comfortable, bring the clients on, and it converts straight away. Definitely a lot quicker.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Eva. Thank you, everyone, to join.
My pleasure.
Marilyn, you said you don't see the link. www.letsconnect365.com. You can see it also on our website.
It's on the chat. It's on the chat. Yes.
It's on the chat. Sorry, not the Q&A.
That's okay.
And you can also find it on our emails and also on our website. If you want to go to our website, there is also a Dropbox. You can retrieve and download all the information, picture, presentation, and so on. You said your chat is disabled. So yes, www.letsconnect365.com. Marilyn, I can send you an email personally.
Dominique, I want to ask you a question. Did you learn anything new today?
Oh, yes. Wow.
I'm teasing you.
Oh, yeah. No, but it's true. So what I've learned, of what I not learned, but I was happy that you focus a little bit on in Athens, because when I went there in December, I was almost shocked. Your culinary tour, we spent 3 nights. It was enchanting. It was not cold at all.
No,
and I thought,
it was good.
Winter destination.
Definitely. Thank you.
Amazing. And you did a great job. And we stayed at our Xenodokeio Milos.
Thank you, Xenodokeio Milos, indeed.
All right. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. And we'll see you tomorrow. We have a little webinar this week, few webinars this week. So hope to see you then. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dominique.
Bye-bye, Eva.
Bye.